Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to The Explainer. If you're a venture capital partner evaluating enterprise AI readiness right now, well, you already know the landscape is shifting incredibly fast. We are way past the initial hype phase of AI, and we're officially in the deployment phase. And out here, the stakes are infinitely higher. So today, we're looking at a framework called the Energetic Paradigm, or EP, and we're going to do a structural teardown of one of its absolutely critical capabilities. We're looking at Function 9 of internal consistency checking, and we're going to see exactly why it's the ultimate linchpin for investment traction when it comes to operational AI.
Right off the bat, it's literally the billion-dollar question, isn't it? Is the AI you are funding actually ready for high-consequence enterprise work? Because here's the reality of what we're seeing. We often see AI generation that looks, on the surface, incredibly professional. The language is totally fluent, the grammar is spot on, it reads beautifully, but that fluency, it's basically a mask. It frequently hides deep structural conflicts that, if you actually deploy them in a real-world enterprise setting, pose massive business risks. Fluent generation, as you well know, is absolutely not the same thing as reliable execution.
So here's our roadmap for this explainer. We're going to hit 1. The enterprise AI trap. 2. The moat, which is function 09. 3. Demand traction. 4. Execution traction. 5. Scalability traction. And finally, 6. The investability verdict. Let's get into it.
Section 1. The Enterprise AI Trap. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer contrast in commercial reality. Think about it. A casual chatbot completely tolerates loose reasoning because, frankly, the stakes are practically zero. If a consumer chatbot hallucinates a fun fact about a movie, no one gets sued, right? But enterprise workflows, things like legal reviews, financial analyses, corporate governance systems, they literally cannot operate on loose reasoning. In these high-stakes environments, the exact same AI generation that's perfectly acceptable for a consumer chatbot suddenly becomes a massive, dangerous liability. Mistakes here don't just look a little embarrassing, they create very real operational cost, huge deployment delays, and serious legal liabilities.
Ordinary generation might spit out a beautifully written contract, sure, but it totally hides the fact that, say, Clause A financially contradicts Clause B. Fluency without structure is, at its core, fundamentally uninvestable for the enterprise. What serious businesses actually buy, and what VCs should really be funding, is controlled work. Work that is structurally reliable, fully auditable, and repeatable. That is a true enterprise asset.
Which brings us to Section 2, the moat, Function 09.
So, Function 9 is internal consistency checking. And listen, to be completely clear, this isn't just some cosmetic add-on like a glorified spell checker or a style editor. You need to think of it as a fundamental quality gate, a core operating capability right within the EP framework. It fundamentally changes how a task is framed before it even starts, it checks the work actively while it's being produced, and it rigorously judges the output after it appears. It detects contradictions inside a system to ensure that absolutely everything holds together logically.
Let's actually look at the specific contradictions this targets. Function 09 constantly scans the AI's output to ask the hard questions. Do these claims actually match the evidence provided? Do the legal clauses align with the underlying economic realities of the deal? Do the system rules match the actual behavior being executed? Or does the proposed scale of a project even fit the resources allocated? By actively exposing these specific contradictions, Function 09 completely prevents uncontrolled expansion, it drastically reduces ambiguity, and it forces the AI into a structured, highly reliable state.
Let's move on to Section 3, Demand Traction.
Demand isn't just theoretical. It appears the very moment a repeated failure becomes way too expensive to ignore. When AI outputs fail to survive the rigorous review of your decision makers, your engineers, or your legal team, the costs absolutely skyrocket. Uncontrolled generation creates massive operational drag. It grinds deployment to a total halt, and it opens up the company to legal and reputational nightmares. Institutions out there are actively, desperately even, searching for methods to stop drift, contradiction, and unsupported claims before they ever materialize as a real business risk.
Let me read this quote because it hits the nail right on the head. The demand for internal consistency checking is not the demand for another AI writing feature. It is the demand for a capability that makes AI usable in environments where mistakes create cost. So, the crucial point here is this. Deep deployment requires deep structural trust. Enterprise buyers don't want more persuasive, flowery text. They want work that actually works.
Section 4, Execution Traction.
Okay, so how does this perform under pressure? Here's the exact workflow integrity path that proves execution. Step 1. The abstract input is immediately transformed into a highly specific, clear object of work. Step 2.
The AI's reasoning path is pulled right out of the black box and made fully 100% inspectable. Step 3. The output is rigorously evaluated against the required structure. And step 4, this is key. If a failure occurs, it isn't just quietly edited away. No, it is explicitly classified and fed right back into the system to improve the very next execution. This precise sequence is what turns wild, unpredictable AI into a tightly controlled process.
You absolutely must evaluate against structure rather than style alone. In real, practical terms, execution means stress testing a document, a business plan, or a legal agreement to see if its component parts can actually coexist without breaking the broader system. If the AI proposes a new strategy, Function 09 ensures the operational constraints actually support it rather than just delivering a really well-written but completely impossible slogan.
Section 5. Scalability Traction. And this brilliantly illustrates how the whole thing scales across completely different domains. Look at contracts. The surface content is legal terms, but the structural check is clauses versus economics. In agent workflows, the content is execution paths, but the check, it's rules versus behavior. In business plans, you're looking at strategy, sure, but you're checking claims versus evidence. The surface content constantly changes, right? But the underlying operating logic of consistency checking, that scales perfectly across literally every single complex enterprise domain.
Scalable value comes from a repeatable mechanism, not from isolated consulting brilliance. Because Function 09 is a consistent, reliable mechanism, it can actually be converted into templates. It can be embedded right into quality gates and built into enterprise software modules and agent policies. It is not limited to just one vertical. It forms a highly lucrative path toward massive productization and widespread standard setting all across the enterprise.
And finally, Section 6, the investability verdict.
We call this the traction trilogy, and Function 09 checks every single box here. Demand, it connects the massive, incredibly expensive pain of uncontrolled AI generation directly to a non-negotiable commercial necessity. Execution, it proves it can perform repeatedly under severe task pressure inside real, inspectable workflows. And scalability, it operates as a repeatable, productivizable module across incredibly diverse enterprise domains. It literally transforms a recurring point of failure into a highly valuable, durable capability.
For the venture capital partners tuning in right now, this requires a massive paradigm shift. You have to stop evaluating ePay, and honestly enterprise AI broadly, as just another neat set of content creation tools. Instead, you've got to evaluate it as a system of operating functions designed specifically for controlled, deductive, and fully auditable work, because that is the infrastructure that will capture the real value in this next decade of AI deployment. So I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought to take right back to your investment committees. When you're looking out at the AI landscape today, ask yourself, are you investing in just another disposable AI content tool that just generates fluent text, or are you investing in the critical, structural infrastructure required for reliable, high-stakes enterprise execution? The difference between those two? Well, it's the difference between a fleeting trend and a foundational, highly investable moat. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will catch you on the next one.